Hi there, and welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we'll be learning basic algebra, okay? And on the basic algebra, we'll be learning the law of difference of two squares. The law of difference of two squares. What is that about exactly? Um, Before we go about finding out what the law of difference of two squares is, I'd remind you to set the video to play in 1080 PHD. Okay, very important you do so you see everything clearly. And if you have any issues at all, okay, as the lesson progresses, anything comes of us unclear, anything you don't understand, please feel free to get in touch. Okay, the course managers are always happy to help, and yeah, you can do so via the course dashboard. Okay, and yeah, let's jump right into the lesson. So the law of difference of two squares. Now, what is this about? It's actually a very common method for factorization. Okay, and it's a very unique method, and I'm going to explain to you now. Now consider the expansion of the following algebraic expressions. We have x plus 1 multiplying x minus 1, and when you work that out, you have x squared plus x minus 1. All right, when you expand that out, and you'd usually end up with x squared minus 1. All right, now let's try x plus 2 x minus 2, and when you work that out, you would end up with x squared minus 4. Are you noticing something interesting? Let's move on. Let's try x plus 3 x minus 3. If you work that, you would end up with x squared minus 9. What about x plus 4 x minus 4? You do the same and you end up with x squared minus 16. Now if you notice, basically we have, when you have x plus 1 multiplying x minus 1, you end up with x squared minus 1 squared. Okay, because 1 squared is 1. Now when you have x plus 2 multiplying x minus 2, you end up with x squared minus 2 squared, 4. If you have x plus 3 multiplying x minus 3, you have x squared minus 3 squared, 9. If you have x plus 4 multiplying x minus 4, you end up with x squared minus 4 squared, 16. Okay, I think you're beginning to get it now. So anytime you have x plus y multiplying x minus y, you usually end up with x squared minus y squared. Okay, you just square the two terms. When you have this product of the sum and the difference of two terms, you usually end up with a result as the difference of the squares of the two terms. Now similarly, if you're given a difference of two squares, okay, I think it's coming to you now. You have x squared minus y squared, a difference of two squares, and you're asked to factorize this. You basically end up with the x plus y multiplying x minus y, i.e. the square root, the product of the sum of the square root of both terms, basically. So that is what the law of difference of two squares is all about. When you're given two squares, difference of two squares, and you're asked to factorize it, you basically find the square root of each term, and you have the product of the sum and difference of the resultant terms. Very simple. Let's do some examples. So example 1, and example 1 says factorize 4x squared minus I think that's 121 using the law of difference of two squares. And what we have is the first thing we do is we have root of 4x squared, that will give us 2x, and then you have the root of 121, that gives you 11. Okay, and all you have to do now, step 2, is say your answer is 2x plus 11 multiplying 2x minus 11, and that is it. It's actually very simple. There really isn't much to it. That's all there is to it. So you're given two squares, okay, the difference of two squares, and you're asked to factorize this. The first thing you do, you find the square root of the first term, you find the square root of the second term, and you simply say your answer is the product of the sum of your resulting terms and the difference. Okay, so you have 2x plus 11 multiplying 2x minus 11. Let's go ahead and do another example. So example 2, and example 2 says factorize 16k squared minus 9x squared y4 using the law of difference of two squares. It looks a bit, but it's still pretty much the same principle. Okay, and your step 1, the first thing you want to do is 16k squared. You want to find the square root of that, and that would give you 4k. You have 9x squared y squared. The square root of that is 3xy squared. Okay, and now you can go ahead and say your answer is 4k plus 3xy squared multiplying 4k minus 3xy squared. Simple. Let's do another one. So example 3, and example 3 says evaluate 161 squared minus 160 squared. Now if you have something like this, you can very well go ahead and do 161 times 161. For example, let's say you're in a situation where you don't have a calculator, and calculate all of that out, then find 160 times 160, work that out as well, and then find the difference. Or you could simply apply the law of difference of two squares and say step 1, you have 161 squared, find the square root of that, you have 161, and you have 160 squared, you find the square root of that, you have 160, and then you can go 161 plus 160 multiplying 161 minus 160, and then you have 321. When you find the sum, you have 321, and the difference gives you 1, and you have your answer as 321. Okay, and I promise you, if you go ahead and do all of that, 161 times 161 and then 160 times 160, and you subtract from each other, you would end up with the answer 321. But I really would advise against that under exam conditions. Okay, so yeah, that would be it for this lesson. Very short lesson, and bye for now.